Ice wine. Have you guys ever tried ice wine? I'm not a big fan of it, but that's all I could think of when I see this box. Fortunately, this is a dropper post produced by the small company in Germany, BikeYoke. The Divine 185 is what I'm going to be looking at today. 185 is the longest version of this dropper post, and the diameter of it is listed here on the only label that you're going to find. You see the 31.6 185. Something came out. Okay, so here's the dropper post, BikeYoke. That's a little Divine logo, I guess. And right from the get-go, this feels good. It's pretty minimalistic when it comes to graphics. You have BikeYoke and Divine that I showed you, and aside from that, you have the minimum insertion point. Minimum insertion point, which is quite a bit. Let me measure this, because this is probably longer than other droppers. 16 centimeters with the actuator, so it's quite long compared to others. The actuator looks unique, and you have this graphic here showing you how to install the cable. That is because the cable is terminated here at the dropper, but more about that when we get to the install. Just like many other droppers, you have the shredder valve here under the seat, and this allows you to adjust the pressure. 250 to 350 psi is what this takes, and you would do that to adjust the speed at which this extends. And what dropped out of the box, you have these little spacers. You have 4 of them in 5mm increments. You can install those here underneath the actuator to reduce the travel of this dropper. Installing the spacers is not as easy as it is with other dropper posts, but it's not that overly complicated. Very well documented on their site as well. And to finish with the contents of the box, the user manual. You get a full cable, inner, outer. In here you have that cable barrel just to terminate the cable at the dropper end. These are the other parts of that saddle rail, and you get this really good looking sticker. Interestingly, this is listed as 565 on their website. It's 545 on my scale. Adding the cable, that makes it 610, and you can use this dropper with any universal lever that has at least 10mm of pull. In this case is the BikeYoke Triggy, their own universal remote, and that makes it to 655, which is pretty much standard for most droppers out there. When it comes to features that they're bragging about, the most important is what's called self-reset. Every time you lower the seat, if there's any air here mixing with the oil, it's going to get burped at the bottom, so that's quite innovative and definitely a welcome feature. You have the travel adjust done with the spacers, but you have to open the dropper at the bottom, and you would open it from the bottom when doing service, and they do have parts and oils and everything on their site. I already mentioned this schematic telling you how to terminate the cable at the dropper end. I'm going to try to do it differently today when we get to install it, but before we do that, how does this look like next to a dropper that's half the price, the PNW, the lifetime warranty that I reviewed on my channel not too long ago? BikeYoke feels premium, PNW not as much. 2-year warranty versus lifetime warranty. This is super simple to service. You just remove this top collar. You can adjust travel that way, and you can take the cartridge out and pretty much lube and clean the insides. BikeYoke, it's a bit more involved when it comes to service, but they do have some good videos describing how to do it. Also, they are supposed to work a lot smoother or nicer than other droppers, but that's something that I will only be able to talk about once I get it installed. And for that, I'm gonna get the dropper ready. First, check the pressure in it, and the dropper comes to 300 psi, so I'm gonna just leave it there right in the middle of the range. Grab that cable barrel and put some Loctite on the grub screw. I'm gonna put a little bit of grease on the saddle rail bolts and install that. By the way, you can get these made out of titanium and save 10 grams. They mentioned that there's only one way to assemble the head of the dropper, but there's no arrows on these parts, so pay attention to this schematic. Here it is. Stack height is nothing out of the ordinary, is a bit over 2 centimeters. And I don't plan to use this inner cable provided with the dropper. I'm gonna try to use this specific dropper post cable from Jaguar. What's special about this cable is the diameter, 0.8 versus Shimano SRAM that are 1.1, 1.2, and this is supposed to reduce the friction in the system. The Jaguar Pro inner cables are polished stainless steel, which feels really smooth, but because I have to attach that barrel at the end of it, I'm gonna just cut this cable end. There you go. Push that through and tighten the grab screw with a 2mm Allen key. You can tighten this properly by using a 3mm Allen here at the end of the barrel. The lucky winner of the Divine, it's gonna be my new work in progress Yeti Arc that I looked at not too long ago. And the first step, it's gonna be to install the remote. Here it is. Then run the dropper cable through the frame all the way and make sure you know exactly the saddle height that you're interested in. This is a very important measurement. Have my inner cable ready to be terminated at the lever. I'm gonna use some carbon paste on the dropper itself because this only takes 5 Newton meters, and I'm ready to put this on. And I gotta tell you, 185, it's a lot of dropper post, guys. Anyway, when you get to adjusting your saddle tilt, this uses T25 Torx. 7 Newton meters is the max, and here it is, the longest dropper that I've ever installed on my bikes. So how does this work? First of all, I installed this with a short lever as opposed to the longer one recommended by BikeYoke, and I can tell you that the dropper works just fine. You could hear that positive stop at the end of the travel. It's actually fairly easy to actuate. I don't know if the cable, the Jaguar cable that I've used, has anything to do with that. Overall, I would say it feels similar to the Fox, but when it comes to lowering the seat, this probably feels more like a PNW or 1-Up versus Fox. It sounds as if the fluid is being pushed down into the lowers, which it is. Or maybe it has something to do with that self-reset, which is an awesome feature to have. That was introduced by the Revive, the more expensive version of this dropper, and is done automatically, which is awesome. Overall, I would say that the Divine feels somewhere between Fox and something like PNW that is half the price of it. So is the Divine worth the price tag? Is this a worthy investment in your bike? It was for me. I wanted to try something new. I trust the German engineering, and overall I like the quality from what I can see right now. Really hope that this is gonna work forever without major maintenance. So what about you folks? Are you going these days for something like PNW or 1-Up dropper posts? We're going for the fancier BikeYoke, Fox, or God forbid, the wireless access from SRAM. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you found this useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, keep an eye on social, and until next time, hope to see you folks on the trails using whatever dropper you love. Cheers, guys. Cheers.